Hello, you are listening to the OmniTalk Fast Five, brought to you in partnership with the A&M Consumer and Retail Group, Firework, Trigo, Sezzle, and Silk. Headline number one, Chris, that is right. Walmart and Salesforce are teaming up. According to CNBC, Walmart announced a deal with Salesforce last week to help it ramp up the sales of Go Local delivery service, which drops off purchases at customers' doors, and Store Assist, which helps employees more quickly and accurately pick and pack orders for curbside pickup and delivery. Starting this spring, the services will be offered through Salesforce and listed in its app store for businesses. Jonathan, we're going to go to you first, my friend, number five-timer. What do you think about this move from Walmart? Do you think it's significant news or just more PR gloss keeping up with the Amazon race kind of talk?
Well, I think both things might be true, right? Which is, I'm sure there's a bit of PR gloss. Well, I think there's a bit of PR gloss to it, I'm sure, perhaps more on the part of Salesforce than on the part of Walmart. But I do think the Amazon race and the way in which Walmart is tackling that is quite a big story in retail. I think a little bit of a big sleeper story, which we may get to the end of 23, 24 and look back and say, oh, actually, did we see that coming? Did we see a legacy retailer who 5 years ago people said was kind of looking at its deathbed because of the emergence of Amazon? Did we actually see how successfully it was fighting back?
Right.
And they've put so many pillars in place in the last 2 years to chisel away at the Amazon advantage, to chisel away at the Prime advantage, particularly amongst those who hadn't already subscribed to Prime. Mm-hmm. And I think the thing that I found interesting here is, I mean, when I read it, this was a bit of kind of Amazon Web Services meets dunnhumby kind of thing going on. We shouldn't forget what a margin engine Amazon Web Services has been for Amazon. Mm-hmm. And the thing that I thought was, this is kind of the new version of general merchandise. General merchandise used to be the margin enhancer that allows you to be price competitive in grocery. This is the new technology version of general merchandise. It's a margin pool that allows them to then be competitive in the sort of the grocery and the product side of things. So the whole kind of growing your margin potential out of services and technology, I think, is very smart. One other thing I'd say is it's also in a sweet spot, particularly in that sort of digital store ops, smart picking, deployment of labor. It's an area where retailers, particularly regional grocers, regional retailers who want to get into digital and delivery really struggle. And it's also a space that Amazon doesn't really have a product offering. So it's quite neat.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. That mix component is very interesting. The merchandising mix, the new angle, the mix is really interesting, Jonathan. I love that.
Michael, what are your thoughts here? Anything you'd add?
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more with what Jonathan outlined. And I think it's a terrific move for Walmart, and building on the thought that everyone has counted Walmart out with the advent of Amazon. I think that they've been quietly behind the scenes building a growth and progressive story that in the long run will definitely benefit them as a corporation. They're massive, and they move sometimes not as a massive entity. This is a very progressive, forward-looking move by them, and I love it. I think the other interesting thing is, and this is a little bit diabolical, but they are now going to be providing services to retailers, definitely in the US, maybe globally. So it becomes sort of a Trojan horse where they get inside the building where there are retailers that may not be doing such a great job. They now have Walmart technology as some of their pillars. What does that future look like? Does that make a transaction or an acquisition easier for Walmart to do because of the partnerships that they're creating? So I think it's terrific across the board. And I definitely think Walmart is an entity to pay close attention to and not count out.
Right. Yeah. Same thing that Amazon's been gathering from so many retailers for years. So it makes sense. But Chris, I know you've got some thoughts on this too.
I'm curious if we're all going to resolutely agree on this one. I mean, I actually love this a lot. We had the chance to interview John Furner at NRF this week. We were his first interview he and Matthew Shea did from the conference. And it was was awesome because there were a couple of points I took away from it. One was he said, I'm paraphrasing him here. He said it differently. And you might remember how I said it, but he said, you're only as faithful as your options, which means they're hungry. They know they're going to fight like hell to keep what they've got. And the loyalty of their customers is really front and center for them, which I extrapolated to also being my big takeaway from the show. What I extrapolated from was, this is the show me the money year. I'm going to keep saying that. It's the show me the money year on tech investment. And so I like this move for another reason too, because when you take your own tech and you try to put it in the marketplace, you are eating what you cook in terms of your ability to get scale and to get value out of your own tech. And so I think that is a really smart move. The question I have is, why aren't we seeing more retailers do this? Like if you're a top 10 retailer, I don't know why you're not taking this approach. We've talked to Target. We've asked them. They said it's not even on their roadmap when I've had those discussions with them. And that baffles my mind. Michael or Jonathan, I think Jonathan mentioned Kroger. Like they've done a great job of this through a number of years. If you're that big, you should be doing this because it's going to make your own tech that much better.
Right. I agree. I mean, I think this was something that was part of the consistent messaging that I felt like was coming out of NRF, whether it's, big technology companies like SAP, Oracle, all these companies and Salesforce included are selling this idea of like, how can we bring more things online so that it's simpler for the retailers that are using our platform to just plug and play these things. And so I think that's a key theme we're going to see is, how many of these tech companies can bring some of this technology from startup size, like we heard at SAP with their small team that's working with startups to bring them into the SAP ecosystems to solve the problems that retailers have. How much of that can they bring in house and have one unified system that's helping support all of these retailers with one platform?